Hello. All right, I'm going to give some people a little bit more time to jump on. All right, everybody. I am very excited for this. I've been looking forward to this all week, so I'm so glad we were able to make this work. While we're waiting for other people to join, why doesn't everybody drop their LinkedIn URL or even, whatever contact you want so you can network? And we'll get started in just a little bit. Very exciting. All right. So, okay, so welcome to the digital marketing update. So glad that everyone could be here today. I know that we still have some guests coming. I had quite a few people RSVP. Hi, Kaylee. So great to see you. So great to see everyone. I know that everybody's joining. It's taking a little bit just because turns out there were some issues with the link that I had shared initially. Didn't know this until it was too late, but here we are. Oh my gosh. Well, welcome everyone. I am so excited to go through this with you. I've been doing a lot of extensive research on what is going on right now in the market. So I think it's important that we just dive right into it so we can get started here. So this is what you need to know. The entire world of social media is totally changing as a whole as we know it. Slowly but surely, things that were once acceptable as small business marketing are no longer acceptable. The max is the minimum now. So having a user-friendly environment, mobile-friendly website, and videos so people can get to know who you are is the best way to find success in our digital space today, especially with the growth of social media in the past few years. So just as an example, I mean, on Facebook right now in 2022, there's roughly 2.91 dash whatever billion users right now, meaning that there's so many users on Facebook right now that if you are not on Facebook, if Facebook is the new Vegas, if you can't make it on Facebook, you can't make it anywhere. And some of the mediums that do really well there are video and reels and other content that's similar. So anytime you're trying to appeal to this demographic, really using lively and energetic content is important, because now not only are you in the largest database that there is for social content, but now you have to stick out among the crowd of people doing what used to be complex but is now the standard for digital marketing. So with that being said, there's so many other questions that people have had. The amount of times that people have asked me, tell me about TikTok, tell me about Instagram Reels. What do I need to know there? Can you grow with these platforms? Absolutely. For what it's worth, you should be able to grow with most platforms because the general audience in Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Pinterest is B2C. So now we're appealing to those users who are clients of yours or potential leads that you can develop. And you can do that by building strategies that appeal to those people and then creating almost like a walkway to the finish line for them. It has to be so simple that in 5 seconds, if the user doesn't feel like they understand how to complete the transaction, they will probably abandon the transaction altogether, which is insane to me because people used to spend a lot of time investing and being careful in who they're working with. It's a totally different ball game now, which brings me to point number 2. As we know, video is killing it right now for anyone who loves TikTok and reels and videos. There is just so much to be seen right now in that arena, and people are making top dollar advertising on in these spaces. And the reason that people are advertising here is because now Google ads and search related ads are very similar to what we're seeing now in social media ads. You can build out audiences, you can develop a user base, you can retarget, you can tag people with meta tags and follow them around to multiple platforms. So there's so much to grow here. And that also brings you to point number 3, is that it all needs to match, which is probably the most difficult and painful part of all of this process, is making sure that your website matches your social media, matches your ads, matches your direct mail if you do that, matches email marketing. All of it is so incredibly connected that it becomes difficult to do what I mean, I feel like a broken record. What we did years ago just does not work anymore. What we did years ago was the bare minimum today. Because now, if you don't have videos, then you're irrelevant. If you don't have a specific audience build out, I mean, some of these clients that I work with have roughly 5 or 6 audience types that we build out and market to totally differently. And I mean, people still can use certain content that they would use on Instagram for Facebook, but now that multi-use purpose is so much more difficult to appeal to. So all of that to be said, your environment needs to sort of match all the way through. It needs to have a consistent appearance all the way around. And that is because of the importance of branding, right? So I am not by any means, somebody who does branding. I understand you need a value in it. You need to have that developed. A good marketer will tell you to work with specific brands. The trend is audience segments. Yep. So I mean, let me move back to talk about this. Holy cow, yes. You have to have so many audiences built out on so many platforms. And then once you have those audiences, you need to appeal to the percentage that you're not already appealing to, called a lookalike audience, which is the 1% audience with a 1% similarity of your current audience. And that gets so granular, it gets so meta, but it's so important to have those audiences. So since you actually pointed that out, we should probably break that down really quickly. So there's a lot of different ways to advertise to audiences. If you're starting out your paid search or your paid advertising, niche, then there's a few things that you need to know when you're building out those audiences, when you're developing that promotional or paid content. So one is that you might not actually know who your client is. So when you're building out these audiences, it's always important to, I always ask the business, who exactly do you want to talk to? Who do you want to appeal to? But there's also a huge importance in doing your own market research. So for instance, a client might tell you, we really want to appeal to mothers between age, 33 and 56, and we want to target people who have purchased from brand A before in the past, and we want to target people who have invested in brand C. Okay, so that might be fine and dandy, and you might find a lot of success there. But through something called split testing, you can see exactly what is happening in your advertising content. You're able to see which one is actually successful. So for instance, we have one campaign targeting mothers between these age ranges who have purchased from brand A. And then we have one campaign targeting women who are, who have kids or who have adopted kids from the ages of 18 to 65. And we might get much better data with a broader range, even though we want to be really granular. And we can pull from that broad range data and make it granular by adding in those retargeting pieces, like, a lookalike audience to that. And then we'll take, people who have shopped at brand A before, and we split that out, and it gets very broad, and and it goes from being very broad rather to being like a funnel that filters out, what we see success and what we don't. I'm rambling, but the point is, whenever you're working in these advertising spaces, you need to work with an expert, because this stuff requires 24/7 review. And after you push out, a promotional campaign and you're not seeing the results you want, it's probably because you're missing something from one of the many views that you can target. So a lookalike audience, which is an audience who shares a 1% similarity to yours. Oh, sorry, I'm just trying to read the comments. Yes, thank you. I know I'm trying really hard to make it concise, but I get so excited about this topic. And yes, exactly. Yes, and Nenkai is so right. Brand lift studies are fantastic because, oh my God, I mean, to break that out into one simple statement is so difficult, because what lift is means that you have so many pieces, and this might be common knowledge. So I'll summarize it basic, like everybody knows this, but in order for your brand to have lift, you need that, sorry about that, you need that consistency, that market research, and that success seen time over time, because you learn more from your failed campaigns than you do from your successful campaigns. I don't know who's told you this, but if you're having nothing but success, that's great. But there's a huge importance in being able to, geez, I mean, I don't even know how to say this. Like, see what you've done, see what's gotten the most numbers, and then eliminate things that don't. And do not waste your time. Social media and paid search and Google ads, that is no waste media. You should not be continuing to do a strategy because you think this might be a good option when you have data to support that it's not. And showing your clients brand lift strategies is a great way to do that, because you can say, hey, like, these are the studies, these are the numbers, this is what I think we should do, and back it up with data, because that's the most difficult part, right? Getting the buy-in. Because people have been running their own ads for so long, and they only hired you so that they'd have more time to do other things, or maybe they had an in-house person who has more responsibilities now as the company's growing, and your job now is becoming it's becoming so confusing to who you're working with. So that's super important. Pull those studies, pull those numbers. And yes, thank you, Michael. I'm trying my best to give good insight, but what happens to me, and I'm sure everybody's noticing this, is I will talk in circles because I get so excited about things and I am totally jumping points. This is why you write out a document. I have a document on my screen with just important things that we need to talk about. But let me not get into advertising too much just yet. I need to go over some updates first before we get into that. So if you guys are looking for some digital marketing updates, here are 3 main things that you need to know about Instagram. So we talked about Facebook. We talked a little tiny bit about, other platforms, but let's talk about Instagram. Instagram is growing and changing the way that they market to people. This means that they are adding new features and changing their algorithm almost every day. So I don't know if you got all of those messages or saw those videos of people talking about their algorithm changing. What does that mean? What do I need to know? Here's the main 3 things that you need to know that are changing in Instagram. The first thing is that the algorithm has actually started to favor users who have a lower follower rate. So what does that mean? That means users who have, 250 million followers on Instagram, right? Looking at Ariana Grande. They're less likely to be seen on day-to-day feed as users with maybe 200 followers on Instagram who have a business account, because Instagram is trying to honor its small businesses. So that is great stuff. It's terrible for, the people who tell you that followers are the most important thing, but they are not the most important thing. They're not even close to the most important thing, because following is a vanity metric. So we can't actually know how many people of that following is converting unless we look at the engagement rate. That's the metric that I would pay more attention to. The second thing you need to know about Instagram is that this is not new information, hopefully, to you, but if you don't have reels, your account will not grow. So I actually took a week off of marketing on my Instagram account, my business Instagram account, because I needed to reestablish, reevaluate, and change the way I was doing things. So I'm already pushing out reels, almost not every day, but almost every day. For a while, I was posting reels 3 times a day for an entire week. What I was finding is that I would get less likes and less follows whenever I posted multiple times a day versus when I would post once a day or once every other day. And so that can be a few things. You can post 1 reel a day and 1 post a day, things like that. But if your reels are constantly kicking out, Instagram's going to say that they want organic content. They want you to make it on the spot. So even though we plan out our content for weeks and we record reels way ahead of time, Instagram won't push them out in the same way if we're posting them back to back versus just posting them spontaneously. A good way to do this, instead of using a scheduler on Instagram, try saving something to your drafts and then posting it, and you will get much better engagement than if you just recorded it, sent it out. So that's the second thing to know about Instagram. And please let me know if I'm going too fast, or if you want more information, you can always DM me and get all my contact information that you need. But the third and probably most interesting change that happened within Instagram is the newest feature, which allows you to pin important posts to the top of your page. Why is that important? Why do you need to pin things? That's already something that we've been doing on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. What does it mean and why is it important to us? The biggest reason is that your Instagram feed, so the way that it lays, obviously the aesthetic side of it is the first thing that the user sees, right? Aesthetics are great. However, quality content is what gets follows. So having a combination of aesthetics and quality content on Instagram is really important. Secondly, your pinned post could be information about who you are, or even something that helps the user get to know you. Because what we know today is that users are more likely to buy from people than they are to buy from brands. This is not new information. That's why we still have, car salesmen, and why the brands like Carvana are great, but they rely mostly on their customer service or customer facing items. So digital is great. We need to have a face though. We need to have a face to the organization. That's why when you have a good spokesperson or somebody who's speaking on behalf of a company on a LinkedIn post, it gets better engagement than if the company posts it itself. So that's really important. So also a great way to do this if you don't have a spokesperson, employee highlights. Highlight an employee that you work for. Make sure that person is in the limelight. Put that forward. So those are the three main things. So let's recap a little bit on Instagram. Number one, reels are king. You need to start posting reels. I know that a lot of people don't want to. I know a lot of people say, I don't have a face for reels. Guess what? It doesn't matter. You can post pretty much anything as a reel, as long as it's within a trending audio and the video is not too difficult for the user to understand as it relates to your niche. The second thing is that Instagram is favoring small businesses or smaller accounts that have professional accounts. So, it's not just a personal account, it's a professional account, and it's pushing those forward. So that's really important for us to know. And then three, you can pin posts so that users can immediately, find out who you are or find out something important that you want to convey to them, which is usually something that you would traditionally have to repeat several times. So that is all very important to know about Instagram, what's changing, what's new there. There's a lot of changes on Facebook too, which I'm sure people have noticed. So let's dive into those really quickly. If you have any questions, feel free to put them on in the comments. I have no issue going back in time and going over any of that if anyone has any questions. But read about the changes, adapt, because our biggest strength as marketers is our ability to adapt. Okay, let me read this one. This is a comment really quick here. Is it better to pin your newest post / video to your best performing post? That's a great question. Well, what do you want to be known for? Is your best performing post something that speaks to your brand that users would see immediately and know who you are? Or is your best performing post something that's funny or witty? In which case, I would say pin both. I don't know necessarily how many, like, they're gonna put a max on the pins. I don't know when's that's gonna happen, but I believe right now you can post 2 to 3 pins on your profile. So I would pin both, depending on whether or not your best performing post is best performing because the content and the user intent match what is being delivered. So for instance, if it's like a TikTok, that you have, or an Instagram reel or a Facebook reel, or I'm not sure, whatever, then, and that's really funny, but it's like a TikTok dance or it doesn't really relate to your niche. You can pin that, but I would probably pin something that's better to, um, bring users in. And I wouldn't post your newest post unless your newest post had something to do with who your business was as a brand, because we don't want to use the pins like we would our normal platform. Yeah. So that's a really great question, though. That's a really great question. Of course, do data research, right? Like, do the research. You let me know what you think is best. I prefer to do my own platform explanation as my pin, which I'm actually re-recording mine. I have so many reels that I do. Most of my day now is just recording reels and writing content. So, all right, great. Well, let's move into what's going on Facebook. So I'm sure everyone has noticed that you have had some weird videos on your feed lately. Those videos are being delivered based on the things that you watch for the longest. What? That means that even if you don't like a video, even if you don't comment on it or care about it, if you watch the video to its completion, you will be delivered more of those videos or adjacent videos, as in videos that other people in your demographic have watched to completion. So if you see something on your feed and you're like, I'm not sure why this is here, it's maybe like, oh, she has no idea what I'm going to do. And it's a prank video, but there's no end to the prank. The video just ends and there's no conclusion to the video. That would be clickbait. So the best way to get around the clickbait, just to not watch it to completion and hope that it goes away, because Facebook has totally changed the way that they do things now. So that's really good to know. Second thing, so Facebook has revolutionized the way that they do advertising. So if you are advertising on Facebook, that is, I mean, I almost said God bless America. I'm not sure why, but that is the best place to advertise if you're advertising on Facebook. The reason is because Facebook actually just removed hundreds of audience types from its platform. Why would they do this? The biggest reason is that they don't want things to be too specific to where you can't target the right audience. How does that happen? How are you too specific with your audience? That's a great question. If you are, let's say, I'm going to give an example. Let's say I am selling a motorcycle decal, and this decal only works on specific branded motorcycles. Well, now the term motorcycle might appeal to things that are adjacent to who I am, but they're probably not going to appeal to the direct make and model of the motorcycle I have. For instance, if you notice now, you probably mostly just get ads on Facebook for the type of phone you have, something relating to the type of phone you have, like the type of a case that goes to your phone rather than just a phone case that doesn't go to your phone. You get more specifics because they took out the broader terms. That's what I meant to say. Sorry, I said that in the reverse. They took out the broader terms so that you can get more niche with what you want to say. And they also removed some financial language. That's really important to know. If you have a financial client, my best advice to you would be to constantly be keeping tabs on those audiences and update them if you can as much as possible. I mean, maybe every other day or once a week would be, the basic, but I would probably do it every day if you can, if you get that data within the last 24 hours. So that's great to know. And the third mark on Facebook, oh my gosh, I mean, this is not new information, but they're being really specific about who they let create profiles, which means that people who are trying to hide their information on Facebook, for instance, like you make your name something like, I can't think of a name combination, Bob and Sam, whatever. If it's a two-person Facebook account, it could potentially be flagged. Facebook is being really specific on what they do now, and they don't want they have joint couples accounts, but they try to be really specific on having personal accounts so that they're able to advertise better. And then they only advertise with the actual name. So you can't make your name like Starlight or something anymore. Like you have to have your actual name as your name, or you could be removed from Facebook. So that's good to know. Also, you can do your preferred name or nickname as well. All right, so TikTok. Holy cow. The amount of questions I get every single day about TikTok. What do we need to know? How do we advertise in a way that's effective? How do we reach the right amount of audience? The name of the game in TikTok is quality over quantity. I know that it is tempting to get 1 million followers in 2 weeks by doing some of these huge trends, but if they are not in the niche of your business, those are not quality followers. Those are not quality leads. Those likes and comments are not probably going to help you, because if you're pulling from that big of a pot, you're not going to be able to know who your audience is effectively. You need to stick to your niche. If you are pushing out content because you think that the younger demographic is going to like your content, that's great and fine. But if the younger demographic is not purchasing your product or investing in your service, then it is wasting your time. Do not look at the follower count. Look at your engagements. Look at your comments. Look how many people click to your website from your bio. Those are the metrics that are really important to see. So when you're working in TikTok, I mean, there's so many updates that happen every day. My biggest market update is just that they're doing fantastic in the advertising phase for small businesses. I heard a lot of people complaining in the beginning with TikTok that they were getting a lot of their items delivered to the wrong users, but TikTok has totally changed the way they advertise. It is fantastic, and they get wonderful results specifically for e-commerce brands. So if you're a service brand, you still have a possibility of having a lot of success there. But the biggest niche that they deliver to is like e-commerce brands, name brands, and things that you can sell, things you can buy and sell. So that's really important to know for TikTok. Let's get into LinkedIn, shall we? LinkedIn is like the one that everybody avoids a little bit unless they're looking for a job or they work in sales or recruiting in some capacity. So what is LinkedIn and why are people so afraid to use it? It is a fantastic platform from my experience, and actually I get a lot of leads from LinkedIn. So I think that it's really important to talk about and to gravitate towards. So Facebook works in B2B and B2C really well. Great. Awesome. Instagram works mostly with B2C. You still have some B2B capabilities, but for the most part, that platform is B2C facing. So that's really specific. Whenever you're building that content, it needs to be designed around the user rather than around the business type for that, right? And then we go to, TikTok, mostly B2C. Honestly, I think you could possibly use it for B2B, but I definitely wouldn't start there. And now LinkedIn is the king of B2B. LinkedIn and Twitter have been the best places to be if you're B2B for the longest time. The reason for this is because Twitter has no longer become, where a lot of people, it still has where a lot of people share their crazy thoughts and dreams on social media. But for the most part, Twitter has provided almost like a bulletin board of news and information, is even counted now as a credible news source. So Twitter is doing really well in the B2B professional arena. That's really important to know. But LinkedIn is fantastic for building your personal brand digitally. What am I talking about? How does that happen? Let's get into the little updates first before we get too much into it. So LinkedIn has now started to put group feeds on your main feed so that people are more likely to engage in a group setting and have higher conversion rates with smaller groups on LinkedIn than they are on a general business page. Why is that? People are less likely to comment on LinkedIn business pages unless they're about a mission, a cause, or a person that they want to support. So employee highlights and, hiring veterans and highlighting veterans who work with you, or highlighting, people who are admirable and showcasing them in some capacity is going to get you a lot of engagement and growth there. And what's great is that LinkedIn is a prime space for building your personal brand. So if you are a business owner, get on LinkedIn. Business owners who are active on LinkedIn collect more leads statistically than business owners who are not. I don't have the specific numbers. Why? The reason is because they change every 5 minutes, but it's something like 30 to 40% likely. So I don't have that metric written down. I'd be happy to provide it after if anybody would like to DM me, and I can provide that data for you. For some reason, I don't have it here. But there is so much to support being active on LinkedIn, and writing long personal messages or even long business facing niche messages is a great way to build leads. That's actually how I built almost all of my leads in the beginning phases of starting Alyssa Mosher Communications. And I am super happy with the results. So please use LinkedIn. I know people don't want to because, you get a lot of job pings and it's a little overwhelming, right? Do it. Just get on LinkedIn, post. It's important. So LinkedIn is a prime space for B2B. We all know this, but that also means that you can appeal and actually find out who the, director of communications or the director of, I don't know, talent acquisition, depending on what you're looking for. You can find all of that on the LinkedIn page under the people tab. So it helps you to connect with the right people within the business without going through a million hoops. And also it adds a level of personalization. So if you are recruiting, if your business is recruiting, I know a lot of businesses who make a killing on LinkedIn with the intent to recruit. That is a great place to do that. If that is what your business relies on, be on LinkedIn, be active on LinkedIn, and definitely use those personal messaging features because people do respond. They do, I promise. I respond, so people respond. All right, so Twitter. We talked about it a little bit. Twitter is, of course, it is B2C, but for the most point now today, people will use it B2B. And the reason is because it is the one space that has constant updates from important officials, business owners, businesses themselves. And there's even a level of cheekiness where people can be a little more candid on Twitter than they might have been on LinkedIn, even with the limited characters. It helps them be, better to understand, more succinct, and they use easier language for your users to understand. So if you're trying to appeal, to a specific demographic that's B2B facing, please go on Twitter, be on Twitter. Do what I say, not as I do, for the most part. I post on Twitter about once or twice a day. It's definitely important to probably post on Twitter 3 to 4 times a day, if not more. When you have any major updates or anything that you want your new users to know about, Twitter is a great place to do that. So let's recap a little bit. We talked about Facebook. We talked about Instagram. We talked about LinkedIn. We talked about TikTok. We talked about Twitter. So what on earth, what on earth, right? Why are there so many platforms to appeal to? Do I need to be on all of them? Do I need to be on one of them? That is a great question that everyone asks me constantly. The biggest and most important thing when you're deciding what platforms to be on in your journey is to match your intent of your business with the intent of the platform. So for instance, if you say, I am a recruiting agency and I find amazing and quality talent for people in X industry, you want to make sure that your content is directed towards a specific audience and not switching back and forth between B2B and B2C. So a lot of people do B2B2C marketing. That's great on LinkedIn, it is, but it's not ideal on Twitter because the messaging can be lost. Twitter really values that consistency. So it's really important to post those consistent things. So if that is your niche, you should be on Twitter and LinkedIn. If you are an e-commerce brand and you're looking for a place to shine, I would definitely recommend TikTok. I would recommend Instagram. And I'd even recommend Facebook, specifically because all of those platforms have custom experiences based on the user. So depending on who you are and what you're doing, you're more likely to find success on those spaces if you're selling a specific product or service that is niche to your market. So super great, super easy to build out. And I love building out those audiences because they change all the time and there's new data there constantly. And those platforms have new features almost every day. It feels like every day, probably every month, they have new features for you to appeal to as a business owner, and it has never been a better time to be there. If your business is specifically service facing, I would spend a lot of your time on LinkedIn. The reason is because people really want to know who you are and get to know you better on LinkedIn. And even, this is the shocking one for everyone, Instagram. People use Instagram to get to know the people who are, running the business. They get to know people. They want to understand who you are. And Instagram is a great way to network. So a lot of people tell me that's not true, but actually you would be very surprised to look at the number of service providers who find so much success on Instagram. And there's even something called small business Instagram. Well, that's like the nickname right now that's trending, which is small business owners sharing their day-to-day woes on Instagram and TikTok and finding a lot of success. So definitely, if you are a small business owner and you provide services, that's where you need to be. So then that brings the bigger question. I mean, I've worked with corporations before. I'm a huge corporation. Where do I go? All of them. All of them. You will never exhaust of the need for all of them. The reason is because before people trust those large businesses and small businesses alike, but a lot of large businesses, they will verify your engagement and involvement on specific platforms. So before they decide to invest in you, to spend time with you, and decide whether or not they want to become a fan of your, large corporation, you need to be on all of those platforms. You need to get real close and comfortable with everyone because that's where you're going to see a lot of success there. So does anyone have any questions? I've just talked straight for I think it says 40 minutes. So I'm going to take a breather and see if anyone has any questions. Looks like we're looking good. Yep. Looking good. Love that. I love this. This is so great. Don't forget to network in the comments. Make sure that you're reaching out to people who you want to connect with. There's a lot of great people here. So I'm sure there's a lot of people who are going to be really valuable to you in your journey. So that's awesome. Great. Cool stuff. So that is most of my digital marketing update summary. I was going to take the last half to spend time, answering questions, talking about trends, because everybody has questions about TikTok. I mean, I get questions like every day in my direct message and LinkedIn about TikTok, and I understand it's it's confusing. It's a lot, but that's what's going on in the market in terms of platforms. There are a lot of updates in terms of web, right? And websites, SEO, and Google. And I actually wasn't going to share those in this, but I've actually already started developing a report just for my own records. So I can go over that a little bit actually, because we do have some time here. So that's going to be good. All right. Who wants to learn about Google? Nobody, because Google is constantly changing. No, Google is a great place to market. Everybody knows this is not new information. You can be very specific with who you're talking to. You're able to build out really custom audiences and target and retarget those people and follow them around the internet. It is awesome. But there is a few things that are changing in Google. One of which is that cookies are about to be removed from any Google Chrome browser. So that means if you have a website and you're relying on information from cookies, now would probably be a good time to start building out a different CRO or, um, a, a conversion system, to improve your CRO, so conversion rate optimization, so that you're able to collect data and also retarget users who visit your site. You're still able to do that, but cookies are going away. So that's a little bit scary for some of us who rest a lot of our business in cookies. Make sure that you have a great SEO provider and that they're constantly updating meta descriptions, meta tags, and things like that to keep you relevant. And also, do not forget to link your social media to your website. That is mandatory. If you take nothing away from this, you need to have those backlinks. So those backlinks actually in your site, which are links that go to another platform that's adjacent to who you are. So like your Facebook account, your business account rather, or your LinkedIn business account or your Twitter business account. Having those in your website establishes better credibility on Google and actually is more likely to push you to the first page of your search results, right? Because that's where the action happens. You got the first 5 slots in your Google search, and if you're not there, you're not going to get picked because it is very niche and specific now, especially with new website owners and things like that. So that's important to know. Secondly, if you don't have a Google My Business, then you need to get a Google My Business because it is very important. Google My Business is the difference between an established business who shows up often based off of location and one who does not have a location and relies on other things, which is great, but it's important to know. Okay, let me answer this question really quickly. Kaylee asked, as a business, do you think it's better to have accounts on all social media platforms and be very visible or to have one or two really strong ones? That depends on the business. I would definitely say that you naturally, as you're developing your content strategies, will notice that you'll get more engagement or you'll have more involvement with one or two platforms. So that goes to being my answer. I would try, if you are a large business and you have a lot of active people, you need to be as many places as possible, just to appeal to everyone so that they can follow you and know what's going on and what's new with you. But I would probably really invest a lot of time and effort into your strategy for at least one or two. So, for instance, like if your business really appeals to B2C, then I would spend a lot of time on B2C adjacent platforms. And if it doesn't work anything with B2C, don't even bother working with platforms that don't appeal B2C. Do your research, do your, like Ninkai was saying, your brand lift studies, bring those out and see which platforms are better for you. But I would try as much as you can to have a no waste strategy. So if you feel like things are not having a lot of success and like you're hitting a wall, cut that out because that time could be used to building more leads and developing stronger strategies in other spaces. So it's a great question. You really don't need to be in every platform unless you need to be in every platform, which is a really difficult concept, but I would love to talk more about that if you have more questions about that, Kaylee. Thank you so much for asking. And I hope everyone is really, engaging in the comments and trying their best to communicate with everyone. I know that this is the less flashy of the YouTube live webinars, but I appreciate everyone who's dropping by. It's great stuff. It's great stuff. So that's a great question. Lots of things are changing in the market. The most important thing to know with digital is to not waste your time. If you are in a platform, if you're trying to be on TikTok and you just don't feel like you're getting success and your audience is not on TikTok, either consult a consultant and say, is this where I need to be? Can you look at my numbers so that we can make a good decision, like myself? Or you can work, or you can just like, depending on the platform, of course, depending on your numbers, do what works. Spend your time, your energy, and your money on what works. Of course, try and test. There is a market, there's a budget for testing that should be just for testing. And then there is the budget for what works, and that should be very different. Those things should always be separate. I'm constantly testing things. I was anti TikTok for a long time, and I'm coming onto the TikTok train now, finally, after a while, because you need to be constantly testing and reviewing what's going on in the market. All right, Michael, which platform would you suggest for a service-based brand? So if you're providing services to people, depending on what your service is, LinkedIn is a great place to start. You're able to, actually have conversations with your users. It's a much more personal experience, and you're able to really identify what your client's needs are or your customer needs are. That is the biggest thing. Are people in the market for what you have, right? Is the people that you're talking to, are they actually going to be leads, or are they just people you're talking to? It's great to have network connections, but really LinkedIn is a great place for if you're a service provider. And depending on your service, it's also really awesome and helpful to be on Instagram if you can. Any Instagram reels, and even depending on your service, of course. Sometimes TikTok can be great too. If you can provide information and add value to your user, that is so important. And really quickly, since you mentioned that, there are a few few basic rules that I think we should talk about when you're marketing in social media and online in general. One is the 80-20 rule. What is the 80-20 rule, and what does it have to do with me? That rule states that 80% of the time you are adding value to your users. You are providing them with free information. You're giving them a free webinar and things that they need to know on social media. You're having conversations with them. You're posting content that's engageable and matches your user intent. And then 20% of the time, you're doing self-promotion. A lot of people think that 100% of the time you should be doing self-promotion, and you will notice that your engagement slowly drops as people feel like they have no relationship with you, but they know what you're selling because you pushed it down their throat. Nobody wants the call from the pushy salesperson. Don't be the pushy sales account. And use your 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, have promotional content, value-based content, and just content that's easily engageable with your user, depending on your niche. And then 20% of the time, actually, talk about what you're selling. Say, hi, I'm a communications consultant. I also do digital marketing services. That's for 20% of the time. So that's a really great question. But whatever you do, oh my gosh, please stick in your niche. Engagement is great when it's niche content, when it's for your niche. If it's not for your niche, it's a waste of time. That's a really important rule. Write that down, someone. 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, user value, user with intent for, knowing more about you and learning about you. And then 20% of the time would be promotional or sales content. That intent is conversion. So keep those things in mind. Super important. Second thing. Second thing, your profile photo should be your logo. Oh my gosh, it should not be the picture of the person who owns the business. It should not be a picture of your logo cut off. It should be a perfectly even cutout of your logo in a perfect circle on your profile photo. It should not be anything else. Oh my gosh, that is a great way to turn a user off immediately, because now your brand doesn't match. Now you're saying that you are your brand, which is great. That's awesome that you want to be your brand. However, if people don't have your logo, then you look so unprofessional. Do not do that. Some second basics. Whenever you have a cover photo, make sure that it's clear, it's not grainy, it has good lighting, and it represents who you are in like 10 seconds. If people don't know who you are by looking at your cover photo and logo, then you're not doing your job. You have 5 seconds to interest the user before they bounce from your page. So that is so important. Follow that niche, look professional, keep that up on all accounts. If your goal is to not look professional, that's great. You can still do that intentionally and well with your users. So keep those things in mind. All right, do we have any other questions? I'm trying not to ramble because we only have a few minutes left. I'm trying to I'm trying to be oh my gosh. You guys know that I can ramble now. I mean, if you didn't know before. All right, that's such a great question. Definitely keep doing your own research because the data I'm telling you now is not going to be relevant in the next 3 months. You need to keep up this research. You need to know what you're talking about. Keep it attentive. Make sure you're on your A game. But great questions all around. So I personally actually talk more about what Kaylee asked. She said, as a business, do you think it's better to have accounts on all of the social media platforms or to be visible on one or two? I spend most of my time on Instagram and LinkedIn because that's where I see the best success. That's where I see the highest numbers. That's where I feel like I do the best. So definitely keep that in mind. Great question. Well, we have 10 minutes. So before I get into anything else super deep and intense, is there any basics that you guys want to know? Is there anything that you guys don't understand about Instagram? Maybe you have some promotional content running, or you have a campaign running, or multiple campaigns running on one account, and you just need some help. You don't feel like what to do now. I am here to help. I actually have office hours between 8 and 5 if you guys want to book. I'm actually going to put my little link in the comments for you guys. If you need a consultant, if you're hitting a wall and you want to give up on a platform, make sure that you speak to a professional before you do that. It's really important that you meet with somebody who understands what you're trying to do. So I just put my link in the comments. If you guys want to book a consultation to make sure that your intentions for your content matches your demographic, your target demographic, feel free to schedule a consultation. You can do it once, you can do it a million times. I have one person who wants to meet all the time at crazy hours of the day. Sounds good, sounds great, I'm willing. Just make sure that don't give up on something too soon, but also know when to quit. It's a very weird combination, but I'm super, super excited that I was able to be here with you guys. We're at like 8 minutes now. I think I'm probably just going to close out. It's been so great to see everyone. Don't forget to network in the comments. And if you're not networking in the comments, I hope eventually to have one of these in person one day, maybe in the next few months, years, I don't know. But I would love to see people's faces and really talk about what this is and have really strong data to back it up. But we're looking great. Oh, actually, I can wrap up with some stats that I pulled. So Facebook has roughly 2.91 billion users, and or million users rather. Instagram has 1.478 million users. TikTok has roughly, oh God, TikTok has a lot. Let's just say TikTok has a lot, okay? It's roughly, I'm trying to do they have roughly 1 billion users. LinkedIn has roughly 849 million, and Twitter has roughly 436 million. So there's some value there. It's not always bad to go to a platform that you feel like isn't performing or that you feel like doesn't have as many users. Sometimes you can have really intense, deep and specific conversations with your users and really connect with them in a beautiful level. I also have a blog that goes more in detail with this and it has better cited sources because I'm trying to follow my little document. Maybe next time I'm learning, maybe I should have a presentation behind me so I can stay on the bullet points. But yeah, like in the future, you can always check out my blog. I can drop it in there on my website. I have some really great content help and just general advice on things that you need to know when marketing on specific platforms. And that also goes to some of the questions asked earlier about what platforms you should use for what. I actually have a blog about what social media platforms work for what business. So I'm going to drop that in the comments too. Feel free to check that out. And I look forward to seeing you guys. Hopefully we can do this again. And feel free to message me or check out my website for more information. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope everyone has a good rest of their day. Bye.